Welcome to the Lions Den on the Tower, Lindenwood Student Radio. I'm Emily G.
And I'm James Z.
And today we're joined by Lindenwood women's volleyball coach Will Condon and fifth-year senior Rebecca Janke.
And we're really excited to have both of you guys on the show today, and we would like to thank Lindenwood Athletics for giving us this opportunity, and thank you guys for giving us a part of your evening. So before we get too deep into the show, Coach, could you just give us a little bit of background information about yourself for all the students listening at home?
Sure. This is my 8th season here at Lindenwood. It's been an adventure, our 3rd conference and 2nd division since I've been here, so a lot of change, but it's all been great move, and we're really looking forward to this season.
And Rebecca, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, this is Rebecca. I'm on the women's volleyball team. I'm a grad student, and I'm from Rolla, Missouri.
Alrighty. So, Coach, you've been here, like you said, for 8 seasons. You've been through a lot here with all the conference realignment and just moving up to Division I. I just wanted to get an idea of what's your journey been like just throughout all of your coaching career or even playing career to get to this point. I know it's a loaded question there, but
it's been a long trip. My first head coaching job was in 2000, so this is my 25th season of coaching college volleyball as a head coach. Prior to that, I was an assistant for 4 years at Emporia State in Emporia, Kansas. Prior to that, I was at Clemson University as a student, and I played on the men's club team there. My first official playing was on the co-ed high school team at Seneca Valley High School in Germantown, Maryland. Go Screaming Eagles. That was the first time I played, and I think that was a great experience because it was boys and girls playing on the same team. It was definitely a unique experience for high school sports.
And at your last university, you guys had a very successful program up until the merger with Georgia Southern. What was that merger like for you and your players, and how did it affect anything?
Well, it was pretty heartbreaking because we had not that much notice that it was happening. We had a meeting in January after our season was over within the athletic department, and our athletic director said, this is basically happening, so you should all find new jobs, which was not very fun. It was heartbreaking for our players because we had really spent 2 years building towards that fall. We had a great returning team coming back, so it was difficult. We had to help some of them find new places to play. Some of them were specialized in their majors, so they just stayed. Some of them transferred to different schools, so it wasn't much fun for sure. And we had a great program, and the athletic department there was really successful. And not just our team, a lot of teams there. So a lot of friends and people that I worked with for a long time. That was heartbreaking to see some of the programs that they built just disappear basically overnight.
And you went through all that, and I'm sorry to hear how it went down, because I found that, I was looking through doing the research, and I just found that really interesting, finding a school merger to happen like that and the athletics to get absorbed. You don't hear about that a lot. But after that did happen, how did you end up hearing about Lindenwood, and how did you end up here?
Basically after that meeting, I go back to my office and start looking for jobs. I emailed the Brad Walkler, who was the athletic director here at the time, because they had an opening, and I just emailed him and was like, hey, I don't know if you've hired anyone yet, but if you're interested, we just found out that we're not going to have a team next year anymore. And basically, I want to say 2 weeks later, I was offered the job. So that happened very quickly. I don't think I wasn't expecting that.
And that was fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then basically probably 2 weeks after that, I was on campus.
And you came in, took over this program, had a lot of success early on, and still right now. You guys are still very successful. But you guys had to make the transition like every other program here to the Division I level. And I would just want to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge so far, taking a D2 team to the D1 level?
I think the hardest part is just not knowing what we didn't know. As coaches, we try and prepare our athletes as best as we can, and there was a lot of things that we just didn't know. We didn't know how our style of play would translate. We didn't know how our athletes would match up against the athletes in the OVC. So it was just more of, just being honest in that we didn't know what was going to happen.
And Rebecca, on the player side, what adjustments did you guys make to help out your coaches and help figure things out?
Yeah, I mean, the GLVC, which was our D2 conference, was already pretty good, so our transition wasn't too bad, but it definitely was just a faster style of volleyball that we had to get used to. So I think that was the hardest part of the transition, was just learning how to play faster and really just to not be afraid. I think we were all a little scared when we first heard we were going D1, but really I think we fit in just fine with the OVC.
Yeah.
And so you also had to make that transition. That was very early on in your career. But you also went from, playing 35 matches your senior year down in Rolla, and then you had to come to college, and your first year, COVID hit, you don't have a season. What was that like for you and all the teammates?
Yeah, honestly, it was hard because I came here right in the heat of COVID, and our first few weeks we didn't even play volleyball, and we didn't have class. We were just stuck in our dorms, so it really was a hard first year of college, but I also think it gave me a lot of time to practice and prepare. It is unique that freshmen have that whole fall to play with their team before spring. Normally you're just thrown straight out in the fall, so I do think it helped us all to get to play a little more together, but it definitely was hard. But I mean, we made it through it, and I think we're better because of it.
And with any competitions you did have to compete in, what were some of the changes that were made during that COVID time?
Yeah, so like you said, we were in the spring instead of the fall, and we would normally, instead of playing a one game on Friday, one game on Saturday, we would normally go and we would play 2 games in the same day. So instead of playing different teams, 3 teams would go to one location and everybody would play everybody. So 2 games in a day.
I mean, so I know whenever I was competing, I was a bowler in high school, and the weirdest thing that we had was everybody would have to wear a mask 24/7. You were allowed to stand right next to each other, but you weren't allowed to fist bump. You weren't allowed to high five. And then as soon as you got up to throw your shot, you were allowed to take off the mask and come back. And it was such a weird time because there were so many new rules and different travel rules. And I can't imagine on the collegiate level how much different that had to be, because I know the restrictions were a lot tougher. And overall, I know that season was kind of considered a lost season, but did you feel like you still got some decent experience in meeting your other teammates the first year?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was hard. Like what you said, we had to wear masks during practice, so it's not very fun to play a sport where you're moving a lot in a mask. It was a little hard to breathe, but yeah, overall, it was still a good experience.
Yeah. Let's say I used to swim, and during that time, you would think the chlorine would kill everything, but everyone was like, nope, still have to wear your mask. We would have to wear it to get to our lanes and then take it off and put it in a specific section. It was so chaotic. But
I'm surprised they didn't make you be on the starter, and then they would hit the gun. You had to take off the mask and then start swimming.
I think that was the next step. Yeah. If it didn't dwindle down like it did, I was like, okay, so what's the next step?
Yeah, not only have to worry about your form, it's about your mask timing.
Yes.
How efficiently can you get it off the ear and throw it off to the side before you jump in the pool?
Yeah.
All
right. So, your Lindenwood Lions volleyball team hosted the Lindenwood Invitational over the weekend here at Highland Arena, where they beat SIU Salukis in a comeback fashion in 5 sets and the Austin Peay Governors in a clean sweep. Coach, what did you see from your team this weekend, and what do they need to do if they want this success to continue?
After the first 2 weekends, we knew we had a solid base of play as far as our serving was really good, our passing was really good, and we just needed to cut down on some of our errors. So last week we really challenged the team to really just be more aware of their hitting errors and trying to limit those and understand the relationship between the amount of kills you have to have and the errors you have to have in order to be successful. And I thought they did a really good job of that. With our kill to error ratio against Carbondale was about as good as you can get, and they were playing at a high level in that match. So we kind of needed every bit of that margin in order to beat them. And then we were able to continue that the next day against Austin Peay. And Austin Peay was hard because they were digging a lot of balls and touching a lot of balls, so they were really making us work. So for us to not error in those longer rallies was definitely a challenge, but we were able to do it really well.
And then during the match on Friday, your team set the school record in Lindenwood's NCAA history with 77 kills. What did that feel like, and how was your team able to be so successful?
I think it's a combination of things. Like I said, we challenged them to understand that relationship between the kills and the errors. But we have a lot of hitters that can score in a lot of different ways. So it can be tough to defend because of that. So it was impressive to see. I mean, you don't go in expecting to have that many kills, for sure. But it was just, it's when you get that many kills, it's definitely a team effort between the serve receive, the setting, the defense, and then the hitters as well.
And you guys were very much back and forth during that matchup. What were you guys able to do to really just gain that edge? I know you talked about like the killing side of it, but just to stay in it, getting down 2-1. What were you guys able to do to stay in it and make adjustments?
I mean, I think both teams were playing at a pretty high level. I think in the fifth set, the difference was I think we wore them down with some tough serving. We got some good serving runs early on. Dana had a great run of serves that scored a bunch of points for us early, kind of forced them into some errors, and they weren't able to finish at the same level as they were playing in the first four sets.
And Rebecca, you had 15 of those 77 kills on a 32.5 hitting percentage on Friday. What made you and your teammates so efficient offensively? Because I know he talked about it, tried to making it a one of the main things to focus on. But what were you guys able to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what Will said. We really worked all practice on taking big swings and trying to minimize those errors. But then I think during the game we were just passing well, and our setters were giving us good balls that we just had good opportunities to score all the time. So.
And speaking of kills, freshman Autumn Bax recorded 18 kills in her second start here at Lindenwood. Coach, how's this new class been able to contribute, and what have you seen from them so far?
It's a great group of players. A lot of them are for the future. So, Autumn has done a great job of creating an opportunity for herself to get on the floor. This is essentially our first real Division I class. So they're a little bit bigger and a little bit longer, but they still got to adjust to this level of play. But Autumn was an exceptional player in high school. Took her team to three straight state championships at Blair Oaks. And then on her club team, she was also a very steady performer for them. She's someone who's used to taking a lot of swings for her team. So in some ways, this is a little bit harder because she's not used as much. So sometimes that can be an adjustment, is to go from the person to someone who's a part of a system.
And so, Rebecca, you've had to go through, the high school transition. And, of course, what she's doing is very impressive. But I want to know, what is the biggest difference between the high school level and the collegiate level, especially the Division I level?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said this earlier, but just like the speed of it and like the height. You're playing a lot longer girls. And I know my high school, we really weren't in that competitive of a volleyball conference. So it really was weird from being like one of the few people getting set, like what he was saying with Autumn, to then being like part of a system. So really just being in a culture where everybody loves volleyball and wants to get better, and just like where everyone's good, instead of in high school where it's like you're counting on just a few players to perform, which in some ways is good, in some ways is different.
I remember our broadcasting club finally got into volleyball, and it was after I graduated. And going back and actually being able to watch those games versus what I see now when I work at Maine Media, it is really, like you talk about the speed, it is extremely noticeable. But also during that game against the Salukis, Nia Wilson not only had 18 kills, but also recorded 19 digs, making her only the 6th line to reach the 1,000 career dig mark in the black and gold. Rebecca, what's it been like to be able to play alongside her throughout your career?
It's been great. I mean, I love Naya. She's one of my best friends, and she is really like the leader of the energy on our team. She's always positive and exciting, so she's really a fun player to play with.
And, Coach, what was it like seeing Naya have those 18 kills and having coached her? throughout her college career.
I think what Naya is one of those players that a lot of coaches after the matches will just say, "Oh, we just love watching her play. Hate playing against her, but love watching her play." She's just nonstop. She plays so hard, and she's not the tallest player, but she works incredibly hard. She is athletic, and she is in. All of our players have accepted this challenge of moving up to this level, but she's definitely someone who had to really add some layers to her game to not only be on the court but be as successful as she has been.
So I find it really impressive how many guys, I guess the girls, sorry, that we've had at the school that have been able to go from the D2 level and make it work in the D1 level. Because I remember we talked to Jed, and he was always talking about like a few players, only a few from the football team that were able to make it from that D2 up to the D1. And I find it impressive with the volleyball team that you guys have been able to transition so many players over, and they've been able to be competitive at this level.
I think that was one of the things that we thought was going to be a bigger issue. We thought the physicality of the OVC would be a lot higher, and in our first year, we probably had the best athlete in the conference in Mackenzie Cifuentes. And I mean, her and Rebecca were very successful early on in the OVC because it's not a very middle-centric conference. So we were able to create a lot of mismatches just because our style of play was different. But I thought physically we were maybe just a little smaller here and there, but it wasn't something that was overbearing on us that we couldn't handle. It was just, this is so much more physical.
And turning to the sweep of Austin Peay, how was your team feeling after winning your first 2 home games of the year? Anyone? Both of you?
Rebecca, go ahead.
I mean, I think great. I think we came off of kind of a rough weekend the weekend before, so to just play well and play at home, and especially to see those things we worked on in practice, like translate through into the gameplay, I think it was really exciting, especially, obviously, everyone wants to win on their home floor, so they felt really good.
And overall, I mean, you mentioned how how many times they were able to dig balls out. They made it difficult on you guys, but you guys still were able to dominate them as far as the score goes. I know it was a lot harder to actually play it, but the whole team was getting involved in the scoring. It wasn't just a few people having a great game. And can you kind of speak to the depth that your team has and what they allow you to do as a coach?
I mean, that's one of our weaknesses was when we went Division I was we didn't necessarily have some of the depth some of the other teams had. So if we were kind of struggling, it was we kind of had to figure it out, whereas other teams could sub in 1 or 2 players and try and adapt. I think in the long run, what has helped is our players have learned how to adapt better in the matches, and because they couldn't be taken out before. Now they have learned to adapt over the course of a match a lot better. And I thought we saw that like in the Mizzou match as well. But our depth in hitting, I think it's more of a philosophy in that we want all of our players to be involved offensively. We like to spread it out offensively. We don't want to see too many players have the carry the load of the sets. I think the matches are such a grind that in the long run it's better. I feel like it's better for us that we're not relying on just 1 or 2 hitters to do it for us. It makes it tougher to scout, but it also we don't have in the 5th set. I think we're in better condition because we don't have somebody who's taken 65 to 85 swings in a match.
So I believe I'm the only one at this table who's never played competitive volleyball. And you mentioned a lot of those mid-game adjustments. Rebecca, what does that look like as a competitor, making adjustments mid-game?
I mean, it's just seeing what we're doing and what we're not stopping and just switching little things like be ready to move this way more or shift over one way a little bit more. Or like we're getting a lot of kills swinging to the left. Let's keep swinging to the left. So just making little adjustments like that to just help us be in better positions to dig balls, get kills, get blocks.
So it's kind of like pattern recognition, like you're just catching on to what they're doing and just as a team collectively making those adjustments?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. After the Lindenwood Invitational, the Lions would travel down I-70 to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers. They would fall 3-1 in 4 sets. Coach, how did your team handle playing against a tough team and that type of atmosphere coming from the Lindenwood Invitational into that?
I mean, I thought we did a great job, I think, especially in the third set. I mean, third set, I felt like we took that set from them. We weren't given anything. We had 16 kills in that set, so we were scoring a bunch of points and gave ourselves an opportunity to win. I think it's definitely that was an adjustment. They play a different style, and they are definitely big and athletic, and nothing was easy. None of the points we scored were easy, except for maybe some of their service errors.
We take those.
But even sometimes those can be tough because they're pretty close. So a lot of that experience in going there was to help prepare us for the OVC to play in unique environments and tough situations, and feel like we have been challenged in order to get ready for the start of the conference season.
And with your team taking a set in that match, Lindenwood became just the second OVC team to take a set against a Power 4 school, and your team was the only team that weekend to take a set against Mizzou. So you kind of already touched on it, but like the overall performance of your team, how do you feel like they did?
I mean, the hard part, I think, is that afterwards, I think, and they were a little frustrated because I felt like they could have played a little bit better. Is that?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think that's hard to feel like you maybe left an opportunity on the table. But I think if you take a step back and look at how we played really hard. We did a lot of good things, like I said, especially in that third set. We were taking it to them a little bit, and really, I don't think from the reactions that we were seeing that they were expecting it. And I think it was a really cool environment too, because I think it felt like there was a lot of fans that were there for us too, which was pretty nice because basically Autumn's entire team that was there from Blair Oaks, most of Rolla was there for Rebecca, but that we had, and we had some alumni that were there as well that were watching. So it didn't necessarily feel like a road game as much as some places, nice. But it was definitely a great environment.
I will say, that's something I've noticed with the volleyball team is, and I'm just going to say this to all of our listeners at home, you guys got to show up. You got to be there in person, and you got to support our teams. I feel like there's a lot of teams here on campus that put in a lot of work. I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job, and I'm sure, Rebecca, you guys practice hard. You do everything every other team does. So for all the listeners at home, be sure to show up to the games, go out there, support the Lions, and overall, I mean, I'm showing up. I'm working the games. If I wasn't working the games, I'd be there in person.
So this weekend, your team played against 3 different teams, all of them being at different levels of difficulty. How do you assess your team and any differently this weekend? Do you assess them the same? How does that look?
Going into this?
Like going into this week, going into practices?
I mean, I still think we're in a point of a season where we're still, a lot of it is focused on us and what we're doing and trying to each week make level up a little bit and get a little bit better and try and add wrinkles to the game and prepare differently. It's these 3-match weekends are hard physically, and we try not to overload them too much with information. When we're in the OVC weekends where we're playing one team the whole time for both matches, I think it's a little bit easier to focus on that. Well, when you're playing 3 matches in a weekend, you can't really be like, okay, here's 5 minutes of video on this team and this team and this team, and expect them to remember everything, because it's a lot of teams and a lot of hitters and a lot. So you like I said, we're more focused on us, and we try to limit some of the things that we're giving to them, because I think it's the more we focus on us and the better we play, it's really not going to matter as much.
And Rebecca, so you mentioned the difference between the 3-match weekends and the OVC weekends. As a player, can you really feel that difference, like after the weekend?
Yeah, definitely. Through OVC weekends, just playing one game in a day, and of course we, for some reason, love 4 or 5 set games, so playing 9 sets in a day is a lot different than some weekends we sweep teams, and only playing 3 sets in a day versus 9 definitely feels a lot different on the body. So
looking forward to the rest of the season, if the team wants to make a run at that conference championship, which you guys, had a very good season last year, just fell to Eastern Illinois at the end. What do you guys need to do if you want to make that run?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Either one.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think we've started out good. I think we have a lot of talent and a lot of good pieces. I think just continuing putting the pieces together and continuing to just get better and better today and just keep building our team chemistry is like the key for us right now.
And Rebecca, do you have any goals that you want to achieve in your final year here at Lindenwood, whether that's personal or team-wise?
I mean, I think the biggest one, like we just talked about, is definitely winning the OVC.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
a
very
big,
awesome.
Yeah, especially it's obviously exciting to win, and it stinks that we can't go to the NCAA tournament, but it also would be a cool opportunity that I could end my career on a win.
Yeah.
And overall, you had a lot of success here at Lindenwood. How do you feel about your career overall as, this is your last year?
It's been good. I mean, it's been a lot different than high school was for me. I think I've grown a lot as a player. So, I mean, I've had a good time. I love Lindenwood, so I think it's been a good career.
And what do you got planned for after Lindenwood?
So I graduated with my early childhood education degree, and so as of now, I'm finishing my master's in May, and then I plan to teach somewhere around the St. Charles area, so stay around here.
All right. So I'm just going to ask you guys, I know Jed kind of liked this question a little bit, but do you guys have any games in the schedule this year that you guys are just really looking forward to? Any teams you guys want to go out and specifically go after?
I mean, I think all the OVC games are fun. That's especially at being our third year in the conference. We're getting away from figuring out where we're going and where the gyms are, and we're focusing more on the matches and those types of things. But conference matches are always a little bit more interesting, and it's because there's a little bit more riding on it. And I think that we have learned in the last 2 years is that anything can happen in the OVC. And it's you can't take any set, any point, any match for granted. So it's already it appears like it's a little bit deeper than it has been. So I think every weekend's going to be interesting. So we're trying not to take anyone for granted and overlook anyone. So they kind of all need to be important. And sometimes when you play in the same match twice, or the same team twice in a weekend, if you win on Friday, you kind of relax a little bit, and then they come back and beat you on Saturday. So it is a unique challenge to do that, and to beat a team twice in the same weekend. It has been tough in the OVC pretty much for everyone. So we have to take them all, each matchup seriously and each match seriously.
All right. So
I want to hear who Rebecca wants to play against.
Yeah, I want to hear from you.
I'd say probably SEMO. They're kind of like our unofficial rival. I don't know if they see us as rivals, but I think we see them as rivals. Just we're both Missouri schools, and I think specifically, I mean, we have Addie, one of our outsides, transferred from SEMO a year and a half ago. So
insider information.
Yeah, and we have a few girls from down around there that I know looked into SEMO and kind of were told, you're not good enough to come here. So I think it's definitely a rivalry from us that we just want to beat them and prove that we are.
That is crazy. You're not good enough. Oh, don't want to hear that. But I really appreciate both of you guys coming on today, and I really, once again, appreciate athletics. I appreciate Caleb Woods back in the studio for making this possible, running audio throughout all of this. And for the listeners at home, if you want to watch volleyball this weekend, you can head down to Kansas City to watch Coach Condon, Rebecca Janke compete in the Kangaroo Classic down on UMKC's campus. And if you want to see them a little bit closer to home, they'll be back in town on the 27th and 28th at Highland Arena to take on the Eastern Illinois Panthers grudge match. The games will be on ESPN+, but please come show up in person. They deserve it. They work hard. And thank you guys so much for coming on the show today.
No, thanks for having us.
Thank you.